Welcome to the Envelope's Emmy Contender Series. I'm Michael Ordonia for the Los Angeles Times. Today we're talking to Annie Potts, who plays Meemaw in the TV series Young Sheldon. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for dropping by.
Thanks.
I thought we'd get right into Young Sheldon, if you don't mind. The show feels really different to me than Big Bang Theory.
Utterly.
Yeah, it's more like Wonder Years, sort of.
Yes. Yeah.
So were there a lot of discussions about how different in tone and approach it would be?
You know, I didn't come in until the third episode, although she was long planned apparently. But so I missed those kind of discussions, you know, around the pilot and everything. But I think when they started to organize their thoughts about it, they felt that it would need to be different from Big Bang. And also because of the nature of having the very young children actors, they felt that that the 3-camera live audience thing wouldn't be right, and would be more difficult. But Chuck Lorre and Steve Milaro, who created Big Bang and Sheldon together, had never done this 1-camera thing before. So they've been learning on the fly, and they're so wonderful, and they're so experimental and so loving watching it invent itself. But doing the 1-camera half hours it's a completely different bag of cats, you know.
Yeah, well, I'd imagine so. It certainly lends itself to a different kind of acting.
Well, I heard Steve Milaro say the other day that their learning curve had been that you know, when he was editing Big Bang and their other string of hits, that when they were in the editing room, they were just looking to make the jokes better. And he said in this one, they're just looking to make the moments. And that, I think, is the real difference. We're not after jokes, although it certainly is hilarious, but they're about the moments. And the moments, the characters create the moments. The lines are pretty good, too. But
You know, I think that's really, you've nailed it. That's a really clear difference between the two shows. But wasn't there some nervousness about so diverging from what had made Big Bang such a hit?
I'm sure there was. Anytime you do something that's new to you, of course it's going to be. It's like, well, I don't know, haven't ever done this before. Wow. But they're such masterful writers and understanders of character and character development that I love working with them. It's a pleasure to do it, and because we're all, especially in the first year of a show, you know, when the thing is finding its legs, and the characters are finding their feet. It's always exciting, you know. It's our own little Big Bang, the beginning of our world.
I really liked what you were saying there about them working on finding moments. Your performance in the show has a centered quality to it, a real naturalness that I don't really associate with sitcom-y TV. Even though you do these wacky things, you provide ballast for the family, yeah?
Thank you for noticing that. Yeah, I think that's my task on the show. I mean, by nature, the kind of grandma characters can be a little out there, but if they're not totally grounded, then it could have twisted into something not very palatable, I think. So it's a delicate balance, and we're still working on it, you know.
Well, what sort of marching orders did they give you? The character had appeared on Big Bang, June Squibb, I think?
Yes.
Yeah, and of course she gets talked about. She's sort of Sheldon's kryptonite.
Yeah.
So what did they give you as sort of parameters for her?
You know, they really didn't. They gave me full flexibility to bring what comes with me naturally, and you know, to invent on top of that. When I first was talking to Chuck about it, I said, he said, "Do you have any idea of how you want to play her?" And I said, "Well, I think she should be gray." And he was like, "Really?" He said, I kind of thought she should have the same color hair that her daughter has. And I said, "You know, if I'm going to play an old woman, I really, also because everybody's having their Me Too Plus moment, I think we all need to kind of grab a hold of our authenticity." And it's like, what's wrong with being gray? Just because most actresses don't go, you know, I can't wait to be gray. I myself had recently just stopped dyeing my hair because it was like, who am I kidding? It's stupid. And I was just over it. So I wanted her to be totally authentic in that way. And so they were like, well, we'll look at it. And I said that my sort of, my ideal sort of person that I think Meemaw might be trying to pass herself off as would be Dolly Parton in Steel Magnolias, which happened in 1989.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think their eyes got a little big on that. But once we put her together and everything, and they were like, okay, let's go with this, which I was so surprised and grateful for. But I think I think it's a moment for all women to be okay with who they are, and no matter what age or where they come from, East Texas or South Orange. You know, it should just always be, they should be true to themselves.
Well, it certainly comes across in Meemaw. I mean, she doesn't seem to be putting anything on. The gray hair goes along with that characterization of someone who just has seen it all and isn't trying to impress anyone, just says whatever she wants.
She doesn't even care about that. It's just, she's just is who she is. She's so in the room, I find. You know, she's so enjoying it all.
Yeah, except maybe when the kids steal her car.
Oh God, that was really funny. Them hitting the trash cans, I'm still laughing about it.
So apart from the gray hair and rooting her and maybe letting her reflect some Dolly Parton, can you point to some of the things that you brought to her specifically, some of the wrinkles you put in the performance, so to speak?
Yes, thank you. Well, I am Southern. I mean, I came from there. I've been gone a long time, but there are a lot of women from the South who loom very large to me. They're all sort of in my DNA. And everything she says, I hear them coming out of all these. There's a very deep bench of wild, fabulous Southern women who I descended from and who were all around me growing up. And she's. Sometimes I just feel like I'm channeling other people that I used to laugh at myself, and with too. But I'm sort of reliant on those voices, and I have to say that I was when I signed on, as fantastic as Chuck and Steve are, they'd never written anything Southern before, to my mind anyway. And so I was like, wow, are they going to have that voice? And I thought, I was preparing my list of fabulous Southern writers to go and say, you know, you might want to just look at these people so they could just give a sweep for Southernisms or whatever, but nothing, I mean, any concern I had about that was completely unfounded. They're writing a fabulous Southern character. I don't have to think about it.
They'd read their Horton Foote.
Something. They're really, really gifted, and they're really gifted at writing for women, which isn't always true of men, but they, I mean, look what they've done with Mom, and Holland Taylor had a wonderful character on 2.5 Men, and on and on and on and on.
I wanted to get into some of the lineage of the show. That is, in Big Bang Theory, we learn a little bit about Sheldon's past, some of which has been sort of retconned in your show. And watching the show, of course, there's a lot of humor that comes out of how ordinary the family is with this extraordinary child in it. So it's still something of a mystery where those brains came from. We never get to see Pop Pop because he
Yes,
died
Pop
a few years.
Pop's predeceased us.
But of all the people who are in the show, Meemaw seems to be the one who is sort of wickedly clever. Do you think is that why there's a connection between her and Sheldon?
I think so. I think secretly Meemaw thinks that she's as bright as Sheldon is, and that only she could truly understand him. It's like, just because she hasn't applied herself to book learning, still, I think she thinks that people should look no further as to where the brains came from.
I like that. So has there been any sort of fan reaction to the retconning of, for instance, George, of the dad not being an absent alcoholic?
Well, they've talked a little bit about that, and it's kind of Rashomon, isn't it? Everybody's life is Rashomon, so that often a child's recollection of what a parent was or wasn't is not exactly the way things really were, because when you're not mature and you don't understand things, don't you have things in your own family? You go, that I saw that was happening when I was little, and I couldn't put it together, and then it's like, oh, that. So I think that there's a lot of room for invention with the new thing, and reinvention, because now you're seeing it through, young Sheldon, not mature, cynical older guy.
Yeah. And of course, it would be sort of difficult to have that relationship in a sitcom, especially one with young kids. That would be probably rough on the viewers.
He does drink, but it was 1989. Everybody drank beer all day long. Smoked, too.
A fan on Twitter asks, what do you like most about being on the show?
What do I like most? Well, I love to work. I'm a workaholic kind of person. If I don't have, doesn't everybody need purpose and all that? And of course, there's not a lot of roles, and not a lot of meaningful roles for women my age. And so I like best that I get to do my work as I think that I'm better at my work than I've ever been. I have maturity now. I have experience and some wisdom, and I'm really game. So I love my work. I love coming to work. I especially love the people I'm working with. The children are so delicious, and they're very sweet and innocent, and they're in my lap and all over me, kissing me, hugging me, telling me they love me all day long. And I get paid for that. That is not a bad thing. And then, then you have to act with children, which is really interesting, because, it's not like it's not like working with an adult. You could go, in that spot where that happens, could we see what we could do? We're bringing them, the little ones, to that, but they're just kind of present. And you say you have 10-year-old twins. Imagine that they were helping you on this show, that they had full professional rights with you on this show.
They've helped me in interviews.
It's fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
It's pretty disarming.
We're leading parallel lives then.
I look in the mirror and I think, Annie Potts. So before I get to that great wealth of knowledge you've accumulated over your career, just one other thing about favorite experiences on the show. I wonder if you have favorite moments so far as Meemaw. I mean, there have been a few very memorable ones for audiences.
I always in the episode that Meemaw is introduced in, the third one, when she asks the children to lie about what has happened, and Sheldon says, "I can't lie to my mother," and she says, "Of course you can. Believe in yourself." I thought that was a defining statement of hers and a defining anthem from the writers to who she is. I mean, she's irreverent, and all bets and rules and everything are kind of off with her. It's just like she's fun.
Yeah, it's just refreshing to have a character there who isn't that worried about the conventions that are holding everyone else back.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about what you've learned, because you have a shocking number of credits. So among those are a couple of stints on Broadway, God of Carnage and Pippin. What do you think you've taken from that Broadway time that you can apply to what you're doing now?
Well, I started in theater. I got my training there, and it's my great first love. And every time the curtain goes up and you go out there, it's such a trial by fire, because you just don't know what's going to happen. In God of Carnage, it was a piece that was an hour and a half that was such a fast game of tennis that, I mean, if the ball was dropped, it would take you 10 minutes to recover. So it was just like, it was like a luge. I was like, God. And so that was very, very serviceable about learning about comedy and rhythm and how to. And, of course, the audience tells you so much, because that show is so hilarious, and there's just rolls and rolls, tidal waves of laughter coming and washing back up, and then it's a wonderful exchange. I read a terrific article the other day that said that they had scientifically proved now that when people were in theater together, and that their hearts actually start to beat together.
Oh.
So that's, that happens with the performer too. When everything's going just well and you have a beautiful piece to perform and you have 1,000 people there, everybody's heart starts to be a match. And there's this wonderful, real harmonic exchange there. And it's just wonderful. And I think, too, with this little beautiful comedy, Sheldon, I think everybody can relate to having an atypical child, no matter what their situation is. And I think everybody's heart and rhythm starts to beat with that too, that relating to it and everything. So stage is very instructive, but it happens. I'm sure it happens with TV. It'd probably be harder to do the lab test on that, but I guess some would argue that that's what the Nielsen's are.
Yeah, they could wire people in their homes, I suppose. Yeah, what you're saying about everyone having the feeling of an atypical child makes sense to me. Everyone's child feels totally unique to them, and
of course,
all of their struggles.
Of course. It's like, you think your kid is special. Let me tell you what mine's doing, good or bad,
Yeah, and mine jumped ahead 5 grades in Galveston, Texas. okay, you've been in a few things that are very well known, like Ghostbusters or Designing Women or Pretty in Pink.
Yeah.
Apart from those that are so well known, Toy Story, are there any that have kind of followed you around that people ask you about?
You mean things that are lesser known that I've lost interest in?
Well, maybe maybe that
Because I think I have done a few things that when I did need to pay the rent, you know. I try not to give those anymore. I don't want to fan that fire.
No, but I mean that people ask you about. Do you get interesting questions from fans or fandom about them?
You know, my theory about fans is, and I know that you know, for some people who get, you know, like mega famous, that sometimes the crowds can get a little thick, and it's an uncomfortable feeling. But at heart, all fans, my experience is that all fans want to tell you is that they love you. They just, I just want to tell you I love you. I mean, that's it. And you know, you don't have to. It only takes a second to acknowledge that. It's so much easier than, you know. It's like, get away from me. It's like, thank you so much. Like, I appreciate it. I mean, I have my life, my work, my purpose, my joy because of the fans. So I'm always thoughtful about that.
We're running out of time. I have to get to the lightning round, but there's one weird thing I have to ask you about.
Okay.
Until recently, I'd never even heard of the 1987 version of Man Who Fell to Earth.
Yes.
Yeah, which seems to me an insane idea for a sitcom. Was it going to be less Nicholas Roege, more Mork and Mindy-ish?
I hadn't thought about that since I did that, and I didn't even remember that it was a pilot. Was it a pilot? I thought
That's
it
what
was.
I've read about it.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't have any idea. I think my manager at the time was friends with the director or something, and so he was like, "Hey, would you do that?" And I always want to help out friends, so that was a helping out friends thing, and I don't have any other memory about that.
Okay. Well, you know, it's a different time.
Hey, I'm old.
I was going to ask you about Corvette Summer. If you don't mind, at the end of these interviews, we subject our guests to a lightning round in which we ask you questions we ask of everyone.
Okay.
All right. What was the last show you binge watched?
Get Shorty.
Really?
Yes, it's fabulous.
Ray Romano?
Yes, Ray Romano and Chris O'Dowd. Oh my God! It's absolutely fantastic. It's
Okay.
just.
So I got to watch it then.
You've got to watch it. Ray Romano is just sensational, and Chris O'Dowd is beyond.
Did you see The Big Sick?
Yes.
Ray Romano's great in that.
Ray Romano's great. People, and I've had this too, because people think they associate you most with comedy, then they're surprised that you're good at the other thing.
Yeah.
Well, comedy's easy. Dying's hard. It's true.
I'm going to watch that on your
Watch
recommendation.
that.
Okay.
The other one was The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which I thought was also just sensational.
Came up just last night. Everyone's telling me I got to watch it.
Yeah, it's good.
All right. If you could go back and be on any TV show ever, what would it be?
Oh wow, that's so broad. I can't think of one. I was on most of the ones I wanted to be on.
There is that.
Sorry.
Designing Women.
Yeah.
Okay, a lot of people watch TV to unwind. What do you do to unwind?
I don't unwind.
Ever?
No.
Just stay wound.
Yeah.
That explains it.
I swim to unwind.
Ah.
Yeah.
Do you swim for distance?
I swim for sanity. I swim as far as I can for as long as I can.
I feel like I should be a better swimmer than I am. You'd probably put me to shame. That's a given. What do you know now? This gets back to what we're saying. What do you know now that you wish you knew on your first acting job?
Something. I mean, you mean like theater or like the first?
It just says first acting job, so however you want to interpret that. Was it Corvette Summer?
No, it was not. Well, that was my first film. And Mark Hamill was so kind to me. He had, even though we were really young, I think we were 24, but Mark had done like 100 TV movies by then. And the first Star Wars had just come out about a month before we started shooting. So he was flush with this wonderful, thing that was already just astounding everybody. And also he was very seasoned. I didn't know anything about the camera or lighting or anything, and he was very good to me. He'd be like, "Your light's up here, and so you need to move your chin that way." Or
nice.
He was just sweet and fun. We had the best time.
Have you stayed in touch?
We have not. People are busy. Even in LA, you know what it takes to get, if you live across town, forget it.
We got to tweet him, tell him to get back in touch with Annie Potts. Have you ever been fired from an acting job?
No.
It's sort of an odd question.
No, I totally get it. I think most people have had that experience, and I am really glad that I haven't, although, there's no teacher like failure. I think there were a couple jobs I wish I'd been fired from, but I can't think of what that might have been, but some jobs are difficult.
Yeah, wouldn't want you to be too specific, but can you think of a job that you really wanted to walk off? Not to hang anybody out to dry.
No, I can't. I'm not wired to do that.
Okay, I'll accept. Audience says yes. Finally, what Golden Girls character do you most identify with? Dorothy, Rose, Blanche, or Sophia?
I never watched that show.
Yeah,
I don't know who was who. Designing Women was on. We were in the same college class, so I think it's difficult because you couldn't then binge watch as we can now and catch up on things. And I think we shot on the night that they were on or something, so I never watched it. So
well, then let me switch that. How about what classic TV character would you most identify with?
Probably the ones I've played. That's why I got that role. I think my favorite show was a show called Any Day Now, which was on Lifetime, about the friendship between two women, one black, one white, and we had little girls that played us as little girls during the 60s, and it was a magnificent show. It took place in Birmingham, Alabama, and it was sort of, it was every part of me in one role. My Southern past, she was a woman who wanted to be an artist, and she felt pulled down by her family. She loved her family, but they held her back from doing what she wanted to do. And then she had this magnificent friend who got educated and everything like she couldn't. And anyway, there was just, it was beautifully written, beautifully executed, and had a great message to it. They use it still, I think, in some colleges, both for women's studies and black studies. So I was very, very proud of that show.
Good. That's a good answer.
See, I know it's a show not a lot of people know, but boy, take a look at it. That show needs to be on again because we were able to talk about things that people want to talk about now and are unable to approach.
Do you know if it's streaming?
I do not, but it is awesome.
It's a show to look up.
Me and Lorraine Toussaint, the great Lorraine Toussaint.
Yeah. Look it up, everyone. So, thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you.
I really appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
It was a pleasure.
For more of these chats, go to latimes.com.